Hi and welcome to GameOnTV. I'm Tim.
And I am Jason, and on this week's episode...
Hello, Commander Shepard.
Jason looks at the effect EA's new mega title Mass Effect 3 is having around town.
Tim takes a look at the challenges of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. We put I Am Alive through its paces and see what's hot on the PS Vita, and of course check out the latest iOS games and Blu-Ray releases.
So a massive show indeed.
Tis a big one.
Yes. So why not, to kick us off, why don't we have a look at the very first review? What have we got?
First up, we are looking at EA's Mass Effect 3. With all the hype surrounding the release of Mass Effect 3, you'd be forgiven for thinking that BioWare was about to revolutionize the gaming industry. With this, their third and final installment in the Mass Effect trilogy, they have whipped the fan community into a frenzy.
Commander, we gotta go. The Defense Committee wants to see you.
Sounds important.
And while every ME fan and his dog will have not only already bought this, but possibly completed multiple playthroughs, the hype has also garnered the attention of the Mass Effect uninitiated. That small segment of the gaming community who, for reasons not quite known, never played the first two games, but are hoping to jump on with this third installment. Players, for example, like me. So the question is, can you jump in the third part of a trilogy, and how does this game fare as a standalone title?
We'll meet you at the landing zone.
Mass Effect 3 is an action RPG that gives you the option right from the start to decide how much action you want and how much RPG you want. You can treat it like a shooter riddled with pesky talky bits, or a detailed story that involves the occasional button press. Or if you like things just right, a bit of both. Something that EA have perfected over the years with this game and the Dragon Age series is character customization. Not enough options and you lose the personal touch, but too many options and you can spend months trying to get your forehead angled just right. Your options here for look, style and backstory are perfectly balanced. Not having my own character to import, I nevertheless felt that my Commander Shepard was just that, mine. The story starts with the Reapers, an advanced machine race with a 50,000-year directive to wipe out all sentient organic life in the galaxy arriving on Earth.
How bad is it? Bad.
The game's storytelling immediately captivates you, and even though this was my first foray into the Mass Effect world, I was emotionally invested by the end of the first section.
How long do we have? Not long.
From there, you're off across the galaxy trying to drum up support for the war. Along the way, you meet old friends, new allies, and unsupportive enemies.
What do you think about handing over the Krogan?
I differ from most of my colleagues.
And the real heart of this game lies in the characters. The stories of people on the brink of extinction.
Organic.
Shepard, I think we've seen this before.
And their personal dramas, seemingly inconsequential in the face of the devastation at hand, make this a true space opera.
Ragnar.
But how?
Commander, thank you.
Graphically, the game seems to follow the current trend of overly textualized faces mapped onto slightly awkward frames, but it doesn't distract as much as it does in other games, especially given the superb voice
Most
acting.
were sent home when word of the Reaper invasion spread.
The galaxy itself is beautifully realized with various worlds brought to life, but for me, the real surprise with this game was in the sound design. Everything sounds great. Technically, it's hard to find fault with this game. The multiplayer is essentially a wave-based survival mode that ties directly into the game through the Galaxy at War mechanic. Essentially, the galaxy is at war and you're fighting various battles from this war. As you progress, it increases your readiness for war in the game's story mode. It's a pretty neat way to tie the multiplayer to the main story, but really, the story is still just about your main characters. The Kinect interactivity is interesting, but ultimately something that I chose to ignore since all of the options are as easy to use through the gamepad, and I'm not a huge fan of yelling at my TV when I'm alone. It did present the unique view on how people play an RPG, though. I never feel like I am the character, rather a participant in the character's story. Therefore, speaking dialogue options as if I were the character actually pulled me out of the game. I'm not sure if this would, for other players, add to the experience, making them feel that they actually were Commander Shepard. The gameplay is serviceable, but I doubt the shooting mechanics would satisfy players who are looking for the third-person shooter experience. This is not Gears of War, but the addition of your biotic powers with the standard shooter setting add to the experience and make up for the game's shortcomings.
All clear.
As with most immense games, there are some glitchy issues. On the 360, the game is on 2 discs, and working out what parts of the galaxy are on what disc is essential if you want to avoid constantly changing discs.
In the future, the Krogan may yet play some role we can't even imagine. We should let the evolutionary process decide who lives and dies.
Also, you're constantly connected to the EA server, even in the solo story mode, and I found myself kicked out of the game when my internet connection dropped on more than one occasion. But these complaints are minor. Even for someone playing this game for the first time, Mass Effect 3 is a thrill. It brings you up to speed with the story so you don't ever really feel lost, but if there was one feeling I carried throughout my time with this game, it was that I wish I'd played the others. You get a real sense of the history that you're missing out on. My advice? Book yourself out for the next 3 months and go back to the beginning to get the complete story. But if you can't spare the time, jump in now with Mass Effect 3. It is still a great gaming experience. Game on.
With Sony just releasing the Vita system, I only thought it'd be fair to play some of the games and put them to the test. So here's my pick of the top Vita games. Uncharted: The Golden Abyss. There's not much to say about this game apart from that it looks, plays and feels just like the original Uncharted games found on the PlayStation. The scenery is breathtaking and the story captivating. This is without doubt a massive achievement to take such a vast world and bring it into the palm of your hands. But this title has a few extra twists, Vita style. Using both front and back touchscreens, tilt-axis controls to help you balance across tricky situations, and even photosensitive scanners found at the rear camera to break codes, this game uses all the gimmicks found on the Vita. But does it make it any good? In short, the answer is yes. Uncharted is a solid, fun title where you find yourself once again playing Nathan Drake, explorer, adventurer, and all-round good guy, thrown into the exciting jungle adventure taking you deep inside mysterious places in search of the 7 cities of gold. So let's break it down. The good. This game is fast, fun and exciting. Graphically, it looks sweet, and the epic music scores take you deep inside the Uncharted world. The gameplay is fun, and the inclusion of puzzles add to the adventure without detracting from the game you're playing. The bad. Predictable use of tilt axis every time you see a log or beam. The lack of online multiplayer found in Uncharted 3 was a little disappointing. There is a black market function where you can swap treasures with other online players, but this is not the same thing as a head-to-head combat game. And the ugly truth. This title is a must for any Vita owner. It's one of the better titles on the system, and it certainly is worth its weight in gold. It's an absolute game on for me. But now let's have a look at another game, Unit 13. Unit 13 was released a week after launch. It sees you take on many different characters, each with their own unique abilities.
All right, Operative, you have a lot to do on this one, so stay frosty.
Some are hard men, and others are stealth players.
Don't be seen.
Silence is my specialty.
The game itself is a behind-the-shoulder third-person shooter, where you're given objectives, and in order to move on, you must complete those objectives. The look and feel of the game is somewhat similar to that of Metal Gear Solid. So let's break it down. The good. The game looks pretty, and it is the closest thing to a war game that we have on the system. The online gaming and missions and targets make it redeemable, but not that much. The bad. Here we go. The game feels like Metal Gear's ugly cousin that was invited to the wedding by mistake. The controls are icky, and half the time you can walk into a room and get shot from some guy you weren't able to see, which means the only way you can get through the game is by trial and error. All the characters respawn in exactly the same position, and the AI is not very bright. Meaning the more you play it, the more you know what's going to happen. Which brings us to the ugly truth. This game feels like a filler game. It's not the sort of game that you'd run out and get unless you're a massive war game fan. I myself love these games, but I was very disappointed. So fail from me. Unlucky for some, I'll tell you that. Maybe if they named it Unit 12 or maybe Unit 14, they would have had better luck. That brings us to our next game though. A number that I do like. Wipeout 2048. Wipeout 2048 puts the Wipeout franchise back in the palms of your hand. The game is fast, vibrant and very exciting to play. With rocking beats and high adrenaline rushes, this game looks and feels fantastic. You control a racecraft, set obviously in the year 2048, and the object is very straightforward. Fly fast and destroy everything in your path. So the good. This game is so much fun to play. It has 8-player simultaneous multiplayer online, and it is very addictive. The bad. There's not much I can say bad about this game, unless of course you're really anti anything awesome. This game is fantastic. So if you don't like this game, you can go back to playing jump rope or whatever you do on a Saturday afternoon and keep yourself busy. This game is truly sensational. The ugly truth. Do I need to say any more? It's an absolute game on for me. And finally, it comes as no surprise for anyone who knows me to find that I now have this game on the PS Vita, seeing I also have it on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. The game is a typical 3-on-3 fighting game, taking characters from both the Capcom universe and the Marvel universe, and pitting them against each other. This is without doubt a bright, flashy game, but how does it stack up? The good. This is a faithful conversion of the PS3 game, complete with the PSN online experience, meaning the same experience you get on the PlayStation Network is found right here on the Vita. If you have purchased any new characters online, they will automatically appear in your Vita version, which is fantastic. The gameplay controls, with the use of the touchscreen, makes getting those hard-to-do super moves one step easier. And if you own it on both the PS3 and the Vita, you can turn your Vita into what they're calling the ultimate controller, being able to use the touchscreen of your Vita to do the special moves for your PS3. The bad. If you're new to the series, you'll find this game very hard to play online. The game is built on knowledge learnt from previous years of Street Fighter gameplays, so rookies beware. And now for the ugly truth. I love this game. This is my favourite game on the Vita, and it's an absolute game on for me.
I Am Alive started its development in 2008 under the company Darkworks until 2010, where it nearly became titled I Am Officially Dead. However, it was saved in 2010 and then went into production from Ubisoft Shanghai.
You mean it was Shanghaied by Ubisoft Shanghai?
It absolutely was, Tim. But it's finally being released for the PSN and the Xbox 360. We got our hands on it. This is I Am Alive.
Who's that? Don't push your luck.
I don't want any trouble. I'm already gone.
I Am Alive is officially categorized as a survival horror game, but one of the interesting and enjoyable elements of it is it's more a puzzle game.
There's a lot of dust down there.
Yeah, look, I found it as very much a puzzle game. But that's what I really loved about it. To me, it was something a bit different, where when you're controlling your character and you're running around doing the usual stuff, which is, you know, kind of like Drake's Fortune, where you're hanging off ledges and doing things like that, the fact that you have a certain limited amount of time that you can do those sort of things means that the game, instead of just being something where you have to climb up a wall, you have to actually strategize and plan how you climb up that wall. I mean, I made the mistake, well, maybe the mistake, who knows, but the mistake of going straight into the survivor mode, which is the hardest mode. And when I was speaking to the guys down at Ubisoft, I was very surprised that I chose to do that. But I got caught by the fact that it said, if you don't play the survivor mode, you won't get the achievements. And so I said, well, I have to get the achievements. So I went straight into survivor mode. There's no point in playing it if you don't get the achievements. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best games I've played in a long time.
Let's talk about the graphics. I tell you what, I love the colour palette for this game. It's very grey. It's a predominantly grey wash, but there are moments of colour that are still muted but beautiful to look at.
Yeah, I mean, the look of this game is quite amazing. It has a very distinct style. And I agree, for something that is pretty much a monotone through most of the game, it still looks quite impressive. It has a post-apocalyptic feel. You've kind of given a bit of a hint about what happens from the opening scene. From the opening scene, you've got a young girl looking back at video footage, and he says, if you found this footage, it means that he obviously hasn't survived.
If you could try to deliver this video recorder to my home. That's in Haventon, 27 Arbor Street. Maybe, just maybe, someone will be there.
I Am Not Necessarily Alive is the working title for the sequel. As we've explained, you know, some of the game mechanics, you collect things as you make your way through the city. Essentially, the story is based around you trying to trace your family. You were on the East Coast when the event happened. You're trying to make your way back across to them. It's, as he said, I think it's a 3-hour journey, and it's taken him 3 months to get back.
Almost a year.
Almost a year, that's
Almost
right.
a year.
Yeah. So you're collecting things as you go, including cameras, which allow you to do restarts. If you run out of restarts, you have to go back to the start of the chapter. And as the difficulty level ramps up quite considerably, these restarts do become valuable resources.
And the other thing I like about it is that you are given a gun to start off the game. The thing is, there's no bullets in the gun. So in most games you run around and you just shoot everything and people, you know, what have you when you get into fights. In this particular game, you have no bullets. So if you walk up to somebody and they, you know, look like they're going to threaten you, you can pull out your gun, even though you know you have no bullets in there, and threaten them, and they will back off. And I kind of like that touch because it's kind of a realistic. If they come at you with a knife, you can pull out your gun and they go, oh, okay, and then you don't have to fight. You can run away, and you can do it very carefully. Like, well, I could shoot you or whatever, and they respond instinctively, and I kind of like that. It feels like you are in a real world. What I found very tricky about this game, though, and it's slightly frustrating. I know there's a lot of people who've been playing it and been claiming a lot of rage quits. Just the frustration of it, I can't do it, or what have you. It doesn't go easy on you. If you've made a mistake and your energy's limited and your stamina's limited and you're caught up at the top of a building, sometimes the only way to move forward is actually restarting that level. And that in itself can be really, really frustrating. But for someone who's like me, who's a massive gamer, and to be honest, I don't really find too many games challenging, to actually be able to play a game where I do lose a life or I do have to restart has actually been fun. I felt far more committed to a game where I feel like I could lose my life than the usual sort of games where I run around where I know it's not going to ever be a problem.
So, no real surprise here. I Am Alive gets a game on from me.
Yeah, look, and I think it's a fantastic game. I'm very excited. I'm glad this game didn't die, and it is alive. Game on. Now for the news. Apple has announced the new iPad 3. Well, they're calling it iPad, but it is the iPad 3. You impressed?
I'm not entirely impressed, Tim. Tell me about some of the specs.
Well, it's 4 times the resolution as the iPad 2. It's got a quad-core processor, and it has a camera. The rear camera, not the one facing you, but the rear camera is the same as that as the 4S phone. Is that enough, though? I mean, it doesn't even come with Siri.
Is that all? That's all?
That's it.
That's hardly enough. I would suggest that this is not a great move on Tim Cook's part.
No, but I think the one thing that's pretty exciting for people is that the iPad 2 will probably come down in price. So that's got to be good.
Next in news, we are looking at the R18 rating.
Yay! That's me getting excited.
You may recall the last time we spoke about this, the R18 rating had gone to an inquiry and we were worried it was going to be delayed. It has come straight back from the inquiry saying that they are satisfied and that an R18 rating needs to be added. They have said it's not controversial, it's an essential amendment needed to Australia's current rating system.
Which is fantastic news. It means that gamers can get the games that they want to get. No more banning of things like Mortal Kombat. Also big news, Xbox have announced that they are going into production for their brand new next generation console in 2014. There's names and rumours of names around the internet of what they're going to call it. There's a couple of cute ones. Nobody's actually come out. It's all at the moment code words and what have you. But in response to that, Sony have reported that the PlayStation 4 will also be available in 2014. So 2 new consoles coming your way in the next year and a half. That's going to be pretty exciting.
It's going to be pretty exciting. The name I'm quite happy with the new Xbox is Nextbox.
Oh yeah, the NEXbox. Yeah.
We're going to start an online petition, Nextbox.
And the guys at Sony obviously thought deep and hard about what they're going to call their PlayStation, and they came up with PlayStation 4.
They're good thinkers there at Sony.
Hey, it's got the Spider-Man font. We like that.
It's true.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Here's a game we're both very excited about. I'm excited, you're excited, you've played it.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Street Fighter Cross Tekken. It's a game I've been waiting for a very, very, very long time. Does it get any better than this? The story is this. A meteor falls from the sky, crashes in Antarctica, revealing a small, powerful box, which they're calling Pandora. Now this box has some sort of energy to it that attracts both M. Bison's company and Heiichi Mashiba's company to quickly scramble their people to obtain the contents of Pandora's box. Sounds strange? Sound like a B-grade movie plot? Well, yeah, but do we care? No way. As long as those words, round one fight starts, we're happy. Or are we? The game takes you across the world using your combinations of fighters. But this is not like the other Street Fighter games. You can play solo against the computer, or versus against another player, but you can also play team play, where one of you plays as a character, and your buddy plays as the other character on the same team. But what makes this game different is that as soon as a character is knocked out, that is the end of the round. So no more multiple knocking out of characters. You need to be very wary of how much life force you have, and when and where you should tag in your partner. There has also been the inclusion of power gems, which give your character unique power-up abilities. The power gems give you a burst of speed and strength that help you in your fights. They make your players flash certain colours, letting you know exactly who has been given the power-up gems and who hasn't. So as a fighting game, Street Fighter Cross Tekken certainly brings new elements into the series, as far as combos and fighting styles go. So let's break it down. The good. The multiple team playing aspect is really something different in the game, and I think really adds to the Street Fighter Cross Tekken universe. But the bad, well, here we go. The sounds in this game seriously lack, with the online experience suffering from a major sound glitches on launch. Sure, they'll probably patch it in the near future, but for a game of this size, it really isn't good enough. The controls are lacking in response and quite often frustrating as you try to block and tag in your other players, usually unsuccessfully I might add, and the graphics look way below average. They seem blocky and a bit blah. Yep, that's a word. And listen to Guile say Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom.
Are you serious? I mean, come on guys, this is Street Fighter Cross Tekken. This is supposed to be a really, really big game. And you give me that? I mean, look at this. Even one of the endings for Relento looks like this. Yep, you fight all the way to the end, and what you get? White text on a black background.
So give me the ugly truth.
Oh, and the ugly truth. The truth is ugly. This game fails terribly. It could have been so good. It could have been a game for the record books. But I tell you what, you play this game for 5 minutes and you'll be leaving before they even say round 2 begins. It is a massive fail for me. I'm so disappointed. That, you know, they're saying that Tekken Cross Street Fighter is going to come out next year. I don't even care.
Pandora's box?
I know, right? Fail. So I know you're a big fan of iOS games.
Oh, huge fan.
Massive fan. What is new in the world of iOS?
I'm glad you asked, Tim. With AFL season 2012 about to kick off, a lot of people are looking for a footy fix.
Oh, you mean the NRL's not cutting it for them?
No, it's footy, not chuckball.
This guy.
Yeah. So to take care of all of your footy needs, True Blue Games, along with developer Wicked Witch Software, have brought out AFL Gold Edition. One of the first things you'll notice about this $10 game is that it looks horrible. You're given the opportunity to create your own player at the start with a variety of customizable options, but it really doesn't matter. All of the players look more or less the same, with varying heights and hair colour being the only defining characteristics. Watching extended cutscenes of teams running out and singing the national anthem just serves to highlight just how bad it looks, and how frequently it clips. The controls are simple enough, but as with most virtual joysticks, the lack of tactile feeling means you often see your player stop dead in the middle of a run because you moved your thumb a little bit further than you thought. Added to that, the game doesn't really explain what each button is for, but I'm here to help you. The big one is the important one. The player select button is also fairly unhelpful, often selecting a player that's so removed from the action that they're actually at home watching the game on TV. And you can't always be sure when the player auto-select will change, leading to the frustrating vision of one of your players running away from a marking contest. The team management section is fun, if seemingly inconsequential and a little vague, but it does give you the opportunity to see where the money actually goes in the running of an AFL club. The commentary track falls into the usual
Mr. Black
pitfalls, but there is a guilty pleasure about listening to Dennis Cometti call you Diamond as you run to the forward line.
Isn't there always a good thing about crazy?
The problem with all of this is that no matter how bad it looks or how frustrating it is to play at times, it is still a strangely enjoyable experience. So let's break it down. The good. It's fun. The bad, everything else. The ugly truth. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can really recommend this game except for the fact that I can't stop playing it, and even at $10, it's still a game on for me. At the other end of the spectrum, and to coincide with the release of Mass Effect 3, EA are bringing the ME experience to iOS with Mass Effect Infiltrator, a $7 game that ties directly into Mass Effect 3. The galaxy is at war and you take on the role of Randall Enzo, a disillusioned Cerberus agent who becomes more and more disillusioned as the game progresses. As you impact the galaxy, the game links to your Origin account to directly impact the galaxy at war sections of your Mass Effect 3 game. Sounds like a pretty good deal, right? Maybe not. First off, the game looks amazing. The set pieces are breathtaking and serve to flesh out the ME universe even more. The characters are solid, consistent with Mass Effect, and the animations are fluid. Unfortunately, the game really falls down in its gameplay. Depending on what you look to Mass Effect for, this game will either be exactly what you're after or exactly what you don't want. Are you after a shooter? Congratulations, it's right here. Do you want more character-based stuff? How do you feel about shooters? The game follows the cover-based shooter style with swipe movement mechanics similar to the brilliant Epoch released late last year. But where Epoch was innovative in its simplicity, Infiltrator goes for complexity, and it really lets it down. It is a frustratingly unrewarding experience. Rather than playing out like Mass Effect on the go, it just makes you wish you were at home playing the real thing. So let's break it down. The good. The game looks great, and it fits well within the Mass Effect universe. The bad. It's just not fun to play. The ugly truth. While fans of the Mass Effect franchise will insist that this is an integral part of the story, it really just isn't enjoyable. Unfortunately, it's a fail for me.
Something which I saw at the movies, but you've just picked up on Blu-ray, is a movie that I want you to talk to us about.
This week in Blu-rays, we're looking at Drive. Made for a budget of $13 million US, Drive tells the story of a character simply known as Driver. A stunt driver and mechanic by day, he moonlights as a getaway driver for hire. Things start getting complicated when he meets Irene, a young mother with a soon-to-be-released criminal husband, and things go really pear-shaped when he becomes involved with a heist that goes incredibly wrong. Set in Los Angeles and based on the novel by James Salas, Drive is a rare find in modern Hollywood cinema. It is a film where everybody is doing their job perfectly. At the centre of the film, playing the role of Driver, is actor Ryan Gosling, handpicked for the project by producer Mark E. Platt. Gosling inhabits the character, giving a nuanced performance that constantly hints at a man conflicted. His mysterious past always seems to be on the verge of re-emerging to destroy him, while he strives to live as normal a life as possible. When a character is this well realised, the filmmakers are free to tell as much of the story through look as through dialogue. Playing the role of Irene is British actress Carey Mulligan. The love story underpinning this story is a huge part of what makes the film so powerful, and Mulligan's fragile yet hopeful performance makes the romance believable and human. But the big success here is Albert Brooks playing gangster Bernie Rose.
Bernie spent his life dealing in legal to illegal situations, depending on how he wants to make his money. It gives me something that I never played before, which is a guy you really don't want to fool around with. For the rest of your life, you're going to be looking over your shoulder.
I thought Albert Brooks was an amazing actor in this film, and I thought he was really snubbed by the Academy for not even getting a nomination for Best Supporting Actor, because he was amazing.
I'm going to tell you something. Anybody finds out, we're both dead.
Absolutely. Sadly, he might be best known to modern audiences as the voice of Marlin in Finding Nemo. But in the interviews that you find on the DVD, he does mention that one of the things that he was trying to do with this character was present a reluctant gangster, somebody who's more interested in the business side of things than its more thuggish elements. In fact, none of these characters are simply black and white. You're not free to judge them without first understanding their motivation, which is a credit to scriptwriter Hussein Amini. Oscar nominated for his screenplay for The Wings of the Dove, it's not surprising that Amini can craft a compelling story, but it is as much the words he doesn't use to tell the story here as his willingness to not spell things out that make you, as an audience member, feel a part of the process of crafting the story. Bringing all these elements together is Danish director Nicholas Winding Refn. Chosen to direct by Gosling, Winding Refn had impressed with films like Bronson and Valhalla Rising, among others. There is a confidence here that suggests a much more seasoned director. He has a faith in pacing and instinctive knowledge of how long you can drag a moment out. And he also has enough faith in his leading man to allow the camera movement and a look to tell the story. Not surprisingly, he was named Best Director at the 2011 Cannes Film Festival for this film. Drive is a powerful, brutal and violent film made all the more impactful because of the heart at its centre. It's a game on for me.
And what did it have on the Blu-ray? Any special features?
The special features are a little more than a feature trailer, which goes for about 5 minutes, and some cast and crew interviews. It's not really what you'd expect. I would have really liked a commentary or a making-of documentary, but even without those things, this is an essential part of any DVD collection.
Yeah, look, I love this movie when I saw it at the movies, and I'm certainly going to check it out on Blu-ray.
Do you remember this?
No.
Well, that's it for this week's show. I hope you had a good time, and thank you for joining us.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can send it to gameontv.oz@gmail.com. That's gameontv.oz@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Jason.
And I'm out of here.
We'll see you online.